but it needed a lot of changes in terms of bringing in the legislations that were visioned during that period to make it much more apt to suit the Gambian people, particularly like areas of employment and areas of, let's say, dealing with dock workers, and then areas of developing the combined joint industrial councils, which was the machinery that fixes wages in the private sector. So some changes were needed, and then we were lucky enough to collaborate with the International Labour Organization that gave us vigorous support in bringing in somebody from the University of London by the name Professor Rideout. Professor Rideout came, and then, well, he met up with the stakeholders and interviewed them vividly, and he was able to gather a lot of background information in order to develop the labor law of 1990, the Labor Act of 1990 then. Rideout absolutely met up with people who were very matured and who played an important role in the industrial relations of this country. Professor Rideout, one of them was late M.E. Jallo, and Tim Sose, who was the administrative secretary of the Gambia Workers Union. And as you know, the Gambia Workers Union was backed by the ICFTU, which is the International Confederation for Free Trade Unions. In fact, we had two groups within the department. Those unions, we were interacting with them together with the Chamber of Commerce, which looks after the interests of employers.
May I ask you, where did you actually find more industrial disputes? I know most times dock workers, there's always a lot of problems with dock workers, but let's hear it from you. Where did you actually find more of industrial disputes within the workforce in the Gambia?
Well, the dock workers was one sector of its own. You know, the unions were classified in different aspects. You have individual unions, which is specifically dealing with a specific group of workers. Like when we say dock workers, we mean the dock workers union. That's an individual union. A general workers union is like the one of Gambia Workers Union or Gambia Commercial and Industrial Workers Union. So those embody different kinds of trade, and in actual fact, sorry.
Go ahead.
In actual fact, those unions, when there are problems, it was much more easier to strategize and then try and settle those disputes. In the sense that, well, the leader of the union would always contact the Department of Labor and as well the Attorney General's chambers before any industrial action takes place. Otherwise, they would be considered to be getting into acts that are illegal. So within the disputes then, it was the dock workers, of course, because of the nature or the setup in which they work, where you have first the foreman and then the winchman and gangwayman, and that time, you know, it was not as mechanized as it is today, where you will or containerize or palletize. You know, dock workers were lifting heavy loads and then putting them on their bags to unload vessels when they are at the port of call. So it was definitely a very difficult situation.
Among the organizations, the labor organizations like the Dock Workers Association or the Gambia Workers Association or stuff like that, which one of them was stronger?
Well, candidly speaking, you have two centers in the history of Gambia, and then later on one emerged. Um, the one that was, in fact, created by Jallo, late M.E. Jallo.
M.I. Jallo.
M.E. Jallo. That is, Jallo. Yes, that was Gambia Workers Union, which was backed by ICFTU, which is the International Confederation for Free Trade Unions. And then you have the one which is Gambia Labor Union, headed by Parmasani Sise. That was, in fact, backed by WAFTU, or that is the World Federation of Trade Unions. That is just because of the, what happened before the, during the Cold War, where you have people, aligning with the West. Some go with the Soviet Union. So this is what happened. But however the case may be, I think people were astute then to make use of the opportunity of tapping the resources that were avail on them to make, let's say, the workers have an opportunity of building their capacity, and then at the same time the institution being strengthened.
You worked as Commissioner of Labor, and then gradually, as time went on, you became Ombudsman.
Not Ombudsman. I was the Chief Investigator.
You were the Chief Investigator at the Office of the Ombudsman? Of the
Office of the Ombudsman, yeah.
Meaning, what did you do?
Well, you see, the Ombudsman itself, it's an organization that actually investigate, let's say, some of the excesses that exist in the central civil service and in the municipalities and the public corporations, or you call them the parastatals. So all those excesses, like people who are being wrongly terminated, maladministration, unfair treatment, and the like, when it occurs, people who are within these organizations or in these working areas, they could report to the Office of the Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman will, in fact, record their cases and then start investigating the case. When they investigate the case, of course, the Ombudsman, according to the Act, or the Ombudsman Act, they are empowered to get access, to access all sorts of documents in any given workplace. So, for that matter, most of the cases that were reported there of unfair treatment, people who have not been properly, terminated in their places of work, or people who actually, whose leave were absolutely being seized for a long period without no justified reason, or people who actually have been deprived from having greater opportunity for further studies or training. All those were being regularized by the Office of the Ombudsman. And then too, of course, on maladministration. Inside maladministration, you encounter such irregularities that was fairly, or let's say properly investigated by the Office of the Ombudsman.
As an investigator, when you get into an institution, everything is laid bare for you. There's no restriction as to you cannot see this, you cannot enter here. I mean, you were just given the green light. You just have to go and do your work, no restriction.
Yes, actually we were, people here did give a thorough consideration of the staff of the Office of the Ombudsman then. And they facilitated most of the important documents that we were supposed to at least utilize in order to help, let's say, people who come with their complaints. Sometimes when complainants come, there are times that they will tell you the truth, and sometimes because of certain reasons, they tell you half-truth. So it is the duty of the Ombudsman to see to it that, well, justice is properly done. Well, actually, when you discover that, well, when they tell you the truth, it is absolutely necessary for one to investigate thoroughly and then see to it that, well, the truth might either come from the employer, or if not